Sorry, we had some technical difficulties, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. It's my coffee this morning. Oh, baby. So I am not home. I am in Hinsdale, Illinois, and that is somewhere in the Diocese of Joliet. I actually have like no idea where it is, but I've been here since Tuesday night. I'm leading worship for a middle school vocations conference, which has been awesome. Check out this couch. This may be the most pink couch I've ever seen in my life. So it's been a week-long vocations conference for middle schoolers, just encouraging them to discern what the Lord wants for their life, which has been awesome. There have been tons of priests and religious and seminarians and brothers and around, and we've had every middle schooler from the diocese has come through, or every 7th and 8th grader has come through in the last 2.5 days. So today's the last day. Cheers. I can't hold off. I need to drink this. So it's been neat. So I've been playing with two other guys, a keyboard player and a percussionist, one of which I went to Franciscan with, so it's great to reconnect with him, Kyle Langan, and his brother Tom, who is just shredding the keys. So good. It makes such a difference for worship. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been really, really cool. Been getting to meet a ton of people, getting to meet a ton of just middle schoolers I love middle schoolers so much. They're a blast. And I'm staying with this awesome family in Hinsdale who's opened up their home there's 5 or 6 guys staying here. A couple of the seminarians are staying here. Us musicians and a few others. So it's been a packed house. Been a packed house all week, but it's been super fun. So this is kind of like the little side room that I'm in. Very pastel-y. Pastel-y, that's a weird word to say, pastel. Hi, Carrie. And I think my sister's watching this too. What up, Hannah? This is where I've been. It's Diocese of Joliet. It's just outside of Chicago, for those of you who don't know. And I think we're getting a couple snowflakes this morning, which is awesome. So, you know what I'm up to. You know what I'm doing. Jimmy Mitchell's here, giving the talks for the week. The deacons have been kind of hosting the whole thing, which has been really cool. But yeah, so when I said every 7th and 8th grader has come through, by the end of the week, we'll have had, by the end of the week, that's today's the end of the week, we'll have had almost, I want to say like 1,500 kids, if not more. I mean, the church holds like 800 or 900. Yeah, it had to have been more, and it's packed every day, so maybe close to like 3,000 kids come through, which has been great. I've been playing knockout with a bunch of the seminarians and the kids, and I got beat by a 7th grader. I don't got it anymore. I'm all washed up. But that's been really fun. So last night was the blessing of families. So they do during the day. They do this like vocations event for the middle schoolers. So it goes from 9 to 2 p.m. And then in the evening they do a blessing of families. So they invite any family to come. And it was really cool to see families come and pray and worship together. And we just had a beautiful night of praise and worship and in prayer, building up and strengthening the family. So I wish we could do this in more churches across the country, because it was like really, I think it was really powerful. So, as always, if you're watching, and I say as always, as if like we've been doing this for weeks. This is only our 2nd week. So if you're watching and drinking a coffee, please post a picture of your coffee. I'd love to know what you're drinking. There's a Mexican coffee shop in town owned by a member of this church that we're playing at. And I thought about doing this there this morning, but it's super tiny. And if it's packed in the mornings, it'd be kind of hard to hear and see you guys and make this happen. But she owns, or her family owns, the farm in Mexico where they grow all of the coffee beans. So it's like a really awesome place to buy coffee from, because you know exactly who you're supporting, and the money's like going right to her family, where she's where they're like growing and curating the beans and then sending them up here, and it's awesome. She made me this like espresso and macadamia milk, kind of like a cappuccino. One of the best coffee drinks I've ever had, and I've had a lot of different types of coffee, and it was amazing. So maybe we'll go back on live, because I'm sure I'll end up at that coffee shop. I've been there 4 times since I've been here on Tuesday. So maybe we'll go back over to that coffee shop at some point later in the afternoon. So I fly from here to Nashville, and Abe and Josh are meeting me there. If you guys don't know Abe drums for me. I always feel bad just saying he's my drummer, because he's a great friend, and we write together on a weekly basis and are doing a ton of stuff in music together. But when I play out, he comes and drums for me. And then Josh is a DJ extraordinaire, the man, the myth, the legend, DJ Joshua J. So if you need a wedding DJ, look up Josh. But they're flying to Nashville. We're driving then to Chattanooga, and we're playing a show on Saturday night, which is tomorrow night. Man, my days feel weird. In Chattanooga, which will be super fun. It'll be the first time they've ever done an event for young adults in their diocese. So I'm honored to have been asked to come play. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And it's been a while since Abe, Josh, and I have done a full out show together. We've done little things here and there, but since this summer, we haven't done a full show. So it's going to be great. So we had a couple questions come in, which is awesome. So those of you who asked, the first one is, and I've been asked this a lot since the summer, but how do you get to do music, and how did you kind of get started doing what you're doing? I still feel like I'm getting started, so I always think that's a funny question when they say, how did you get started? I'm like, well, I'm still getting started. I feel like I'm just getting started, really. But my answer to that would be, share your gifts. And I want to do like a whole segment on that at some point. But I think a lot of people want to just kind of jump to, I think social media, and for better or for worse, social media, I think, kind of facilitates and fosters this culture of like, we can see the end product immediately, but we don't always get to see the work that happens in between, and so people want the end product. And so but you just can't have the end product if you don't put the work in. And I think that starts with just authentically and very generously sharing your gift. So if you have the gift of music, or if you have a talent or something, I think you should just share it. Like, not wait for a massive stage to play it on, or for a huge audience to come find you, because that just won't happen. But I think start with your family, start with your friends, and share what God has given you with others, and seek to bless other people with that. And then I think if it's something the Lord wants for your life, He'll breathe life into that dream and into that gift, and bring it to life. And I've just seen that in my own life. I know, like, when I started writing and playing, I kind of started playing in college for my friends, and they kind of got behind it and really encouraged me, and it just kind of started super small. And then some of the best advice I had ever been given was never say no to an opportunity, no matter how big or how small. Never say no to an opportunity. And that has gotten me in the door of some very strange places, and some very awkward crowds, and some very, very, very small crowds. But it doesn't matter. Like, those are people with hearts who could possibly need to hear what I have to say or sing about, and what the Lord wants to say through me. And so I never take any of those opportunities for granted. And I think it's I just think if you treat every opportunity that you can share your gift or talent, whether that's, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever you do or whatever you're passionate about, if you see all those opportunities as gifts, like as a gift given to you, like, hey, this performance this weekend is not guaranteed. It's a gift that, Connor, that you get to go and play somewhere. Then I think it'll change how you see what you're doing, and it'll help. If God wants it for you, it's going to happen that way. So that's the first thing. So generosity, again, I want to do a whole segment on this, but generosity always wins. The more generous you are in this life, I truly believe the more victorious you will be. And that victory may not look always what we want it to be, but I just know that the more we can give and share and serve and love generously, the more will be given in return. And I've just seen that in my own life, especially with music. Like, share your gifts, give your gifts away. Allow people to be blessed by your gifts and talents, and it will change, how you seek to serve, and ultimately, hopefully, put you on a path to share those with more people wherever that leads you. Second thing that got asked was from Andreas, who I've had on a retreat back in the day. So I don't know if you're watching right now, but if you watch this later, what up, dude? Thanks for tuning in and asking a question. He asked how to look at that beautiful sunshine coming in. He asked how to maintain a successful youth ministry when you are super busy. And so I don't know if he was actually talking about like my life or if you're super busy, Andreas, but that's a great question. And I think there's two things, three things I would say. One is, what do you think successful, what is successful youth ministry at a parish? And that's a whole long conversation. It's for me, and I would hope for everyone, it's not about numbers. It's not about how many kids you're getting through the door, but the actual ministry that's happening, how intentional you are with them and creating disciples. But so that you need to define what you look at success as. And then I would say two things. Make sure you have a well-trained team of volunteers who know how much you care about them and how much you can support them. And because you need that support, I feel like a youth minister is, you can't do everything. You can't have your hands, in every single thing that you're doing. You need people to be an extension of the work that you have to do. And so, having that group, I mean, Jesus had his apostles, he had 12. So if you could get 12, that'd be great. Who knows? Maybe that's the magic number, but having a well-trained team of people, anything I've done in ministry has never been because I've done it on my own. It's always been because I've had amazing, amazing people, even currently, that serve with me and come on retreats with me and give up their weekends and hours upon hours a week to serve these kids. And so having that, and the second thing would be prioritizing your life and making sure prayer is your first priority. Because if you're not praying, I always think it's funny, and I get bogged down in this all the time. But if you're not praying, I mean, our one job as a youth minister, as a youth pastor, is to do God's work. And in order to do that, we need to be talking to God. And so I laugh at myself when I go a couple days or a week without praying because I'm too busy. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense, because God, I'm doing your work. Like, how can I do your work, specifically do your work here at this church, without talking to you about it? So 5 minutes a day, the first thing when you wake up, even this morning, like I took, my prayer time before we got on with you guys, because it's got to be the priority. And you know what? You're probably not going to hear something from the Lord every single day. You may not get direction as to like what you're supposed to do that day in ministry, but at least it centers your heart and puts it in the right place for what you're doing. So supporting, loving, serving your volunteers, and praying on a daily basis, I would say, are the two things I would recommend for having at least the structure in place for a successful youth ministry. Also be in touch with your pastor, like about what you're doing, your schedule, being accountable for the programs that you're running. I think all of that helps. The more people you can have in on your vision and what you're doing, will just help you, So second question I got was from Nicole. And Nicole, we met at Steubenville this summer, so I don't think you're watching right now either, but if you're watching later, again, shout out to Nicole. Thanks for sending your question in through Instagram. She asked about how to stay faithful in high school, and how to deal with peer pressure. And man, what a great question. Go spend more time with your youth minister. I wish it was that easy. Again, we could do a whole nother segment on this. And I may have, I don't know where he is, but Deacon Ryan, who's staying with us, who is one of the funniest people I've met. I think I might have him chime in on this too. But gosh, what would I say to that? I mean, there's so many things to say. I think high school is a really hard place to be right now. I would not want to go back to high school right now, just because of the pressures that high school students are dealing with on a daily basis from their friends, from our culture, who you're supposed to be, how fast you're supposed to get there. Success in high school, I think, is misconstrued. So what I would say is how to keep your faith alive in high school is, you got to know why you're believing what you're believing. And so you need to know, what is it that Jesus taught? Why is it that I believe that? And oftentimes what I've found, and when I talk to high schoolers about this, the pressures that they're dealing with that they feel like are kind of pushing on their faith or challenging their faith are not really legitimate, because they're people who are quick to judge or people who are quick to make some kind of comment who can't really back it up. And I'm a big fan of not getting in arguments about your faith. Like, if someone really wants to talk about it, and if someone really wants to engage in discussion, and then they're willing to listen. And most people nowadays aren't willing to listen. They just want to kind of spout their piece and then walk away. So you got to find those people who are willing to listen, and if they're not, you got to kind of walk away from that conversation. But be convicted of your faith. Be convicted of what you believe, and that can only happen through praying on a daily basis. Again, first thing in the morning before you go to school, if you can. Maybe it's a little bit during your lunch period or whatever. But I think being truly convicted and being joyful in it. I think that my philosophy in evangelizing and in sharing the gospel, and this happens through my music, is being joyful, because I think joy is what our world lacks, authentic, real joy, and I think joy is what could convert hearts. Because I know when I see someone who's really happy, I want to know why, and I want to know how are they that happy, and what is it that's causing them to be that happy? Where are they getting their joy from? And so I think if you can be rooted in joy, if you can really find joy within your faith, and if your relationship with Jesus can bring about great joy in your life, which it should, then hold on to that and take great confidence in that, because that will drive other people crazy. Because people don't want, in my experience, people do not want their final hope and their final joy to be in something they can't see, right? They want to be able to feel it. They want to be able to touch it. It needs to be tangible. But we can't always see who Jesus is. And we know as Christians that he is our ultimate fulfillment. Our hope and our joy should come from him. And so be joyful and be confident in that joy. And you may get more pushback on that, but it's just because other people want it. It's just because other people may be frustrated that they don't know how to get it. And then it'll start those conversations of, hey, why are you so happy all the time? Like, where do you get your joy? You just kind of have this skip in your step, or this smile on your face, or whatever. Like, I want what you have. And when you get those questions, that's like, oh man, that's awesome, because people, then it's just an open door of it being able to say, like, well, hey, like, this is who I am, and this is where I find my hope and where I find my joy. And here, now that you're willing to listen, I want to share it with you. So, I feel like there's a lot of reasons not to be joyful in life. I mean, if you watch the news, there's a lot of reasons to despair and to not be hopeful. So it's hard. It's definitely hard, and it's not easy. And it may not be easy in your friend groups if your friend groups don't believe the same thing you believe, or if you are not going to a school that supports your faith. But I would say, like, if you can commit to that and be convicted of it and be confident in it and realize that nothing can steal it, then it will change the way your friends think of you. It will change the way your peers interact with you. And again, that may be hard at first. I know that's going to be hard at first, because I've seen it, and I've walked with kids who are saying, "Hey, I'm going to commit to this," and then they come back and they're like, "This was really hard this week," and providing encouragement for them and walking with them in that struggle. But eventually, when the confidence gets strong enough and you're convicted enough about what you believe and where your joy and where your hope comes from, it'll get easier and easier and easier, and eventually, hopefully, it'll turn people's heads, and it may not be in the moment. I've had people who have come back to me years after an interaction saying like, "Hey, I remember, who you were, and you didn't compromise your beliefs, or you didn't back down. You always maintained this hope or this confidence, and I wish I did that at that time of my life as well." So you never know who's watching or who's listening, or what they're thinking. And a lot of people may try to come off way harder than they really are, and way more aggressive just to put up a front. But later, we'll be thinking like, man, that person was really joyful, and they're really into their faith, and I want to have that too. So don't get bogged down by the pressures of it, by the pressures of high school. Yeah, I know it's hard, and I know it's easier said than done, but stay committed to the joy that's found in Jesus, and then be joyful, be committed to being joyful, and that is why part of the reason I love coffee, because coffee brings me a lot of joy. All right, well, thanks for tuning in today. I love that you guys are on here. We're on for next Friday as well. Friday, what's next Friday? I think I'm just back in St. Paul next Friday. We're gearing up for the Net Lifeline show, which I am super, super excited about. We got some special things in the works for that, and I'm not going to tell you what yet, but if you're watching and you're coming to that show, I'm really excited. So we'll keep you updated as we get closer to that. Yeah, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. Cheers to Coffee with Connor, cup number 2, cup number 3. Coming soon. God bless you guys. Peace.